Yeah, welcome along today. My name's Carlos, and I'm the head of customer success here at Rocketspark. And here to present the webinar on blogging for success, so that you can have a successful website and how important blogs are for that. So, this has come about from a series of webinars that we've been doing to try and help people with Rocketspark websites or designers that are building websites for customers to hopefully understand how important blogging is. And from our perspective, it is really important. And we get to see, I guess, a lot of data and information about how that works. And today's about sharing that. Obviously, you would have registered through the customer webinars page. So please, favorite that, bookmark it, keep an eye on it. We'll put recordings up there and also new events. But also you probably saw it through the newsletter as well. So keep an eye out for those. So today it was a brief intro, it's about explaining why blogging matters in 2025. I feel like every time I use the term blogging or writing a blog, people are like, oh my gosh, wasn't that something that we did in the 2000s or something? Like, isn't that past? But you could call it whatever you like, I guess. You can call it creating news articles or information, but effectively it's blogging. And to me, having a website sort of isn't enough. In 2025, people are searching smarter. They're using AI, and that's rewriting how we are being found. And so there's things like trust is hard to earn, and blogging matters more than ever because this is how we're going to build it. It helps you stay discoverable, use fresh content. And keep your business front of mind, especially with the likes of Google and AI, so that they're constantly seeing this new content and new details. So, it is important. So that's why we're here today. So hopefully that encourages you to take some of this today and hopefully create your own action plan. I want to keep this interactive in its format and I guess informal in some way. So please ask questions. Like I would. Sometimes I go through these and I don't have many, and I hope that everyone's getting it okay and that it made sense. So even a comment or reaction or ask a question. It will be super helpful to everybody that's listening in as well. All right, so why blogging is still powerful. So I kind of broke this down into two parts to really briefly explain. So we're probably all know SEO or heard of SEO. If you're unfamiliar with SEO and how to maximize SEO, I would definitely suggest jumping on the customer webinars page in Rocketspark and watching the recording of the SEO basics webinar we've done. We do try and do that once every month or two, just in case people don't have a chance to join it, that they can and see it fresh and new up-to-date versions. The most up-to-date version we have in there does have AEO talked about a little bit as well. Check that out. But blogs create fresh, keyword-rich content that Google loves. And so SEO is important. We want people to be able to find us organically, and we want them to be able to find our website. Yes, I think there's a really important place for digital marketing. And if you can find the right digital marketer, I think it's really important. And it can be the difference between your business or your website being successful or not. But there's definitely a lot of things you can do organically that are going to really help to get people to your site, which then can convert into sales or leads or inquiries. When I talk about that keyword-rich content for Google, Google's trying to find the best website to recommend to a searcher. And what we're finding more and more, especially with things like AI and generative text tools, is that people are asking questions and they're trying to find solutions to problems. They don't know exactly what they're looking for. And also what we've found is that people know that they don't know it all. So if they were to ask for a specific product, they're going to get that product, but actually they don't know what's out there and what they might be able to find if they search more broadly. And so we need to make sure that our site has got that content and is rich with that. And when we talk about keywords, I'm going to be going through like a builder's site that I've created. So that'll be my sort of industry. But what you're looking for is not just building, construction, residential homes or something. That can be so much more than that, and people can be searching for so much more, and blogs give you a really great angle in to those people. They increase your chance of ranking on Google as well for what we call long tail searches. So this is where somebody is writing a question or something a little bit more detailed. I've often used the example of like somebody that searches the word shoes versus someone that searches men's marathon running shoes. And so that's like a long tail keyword or phrase. And so if you can incorporate something like that, that can be great, but very hard to incorporate like on the homepage of your website or on a services page. But in a blog, it's much easier to get all that rich content in. It also gives you a chance to internally link. If you've got people arriving at your site through a blog, you can actually then internally link them to your services page or your contact us page sort of really naturally, and that also helps things along. So for AEO or GEO, and I'm kind of using these terms hopefully to help you if you've heard them before, or to kind of look up what they are. But I tend to use AEO, which is answer engine optimization. So similar to search engine optimization, but for AI generative tools. And so, as I said earlier, search is shifting really strongly towards AI powered search and voice search. So people are using that. And what we know is that those tools need answers, and they need solutions to help give the format that they respond in. They don't just give you a list of websites, they explain things and tell you. And so if you've got the content, so we quite often talk about using like frequently asked questions, so that you've got a question and there's a clear answer to that AI tools can use. It's no different with a blog. You're being able to give it more content for a solution or for an answer to a question potentially, that it can then use, and therefore is then using your site and seeing your site as something it's going to either recommend or reference in that search. You may have seen when you've used tools like, say, ChatGPT, that it'll have a comment, and at the end of that, it'll have a website link, which will be the reference that it's used. So that can be really helpful, and blogs can help with that. Blogs help you to directly answer those questions, which is what I've said. And so we're going to get into like how to figure out those questions and challenge yourself to find those questions. It also is structured and clear answers. So sometimes when you've got your website and you're outlining what you do and so on, it can just be really clear, because that's important, so people can find you, know that you do what they want you to do, and then they can inquire or buy or whatever it is. Whereas some of the blog content allows you to have sort of structured, clear answers, and they can be a little bit more longer format. And that can really help with those AI tools as well. And it's another chance, and it's more chances for your content to be found and your pages to be found. I actually think I made a comment to that earlier, which I didn't say, which might be somewhere else. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. But these blogs are more pages so that you can be found in more ways, which I think is really important. All right, so after that, what we need to really do is come up with blog ideas. So there's just a couple of ways that we can do it. And I've got a little example here with an AI tool using ChatGPT, but there's a few ways or things that I'd challenge you with, and you could write some of these down potentially, but you've got to mind your everyday conversations with customers. Think about, what are you being asked often by a customer or somebody that's inquiring with you? Because those are questions that people will be writing into Google or into an AI tool. And if you can write a blog that answers those questions, then all of a sudden you're the website, or you're the organization that's been presented to those people, either in Google or in AI. So take note of that and challenge even people in your team, or challenge yourself to think about it from that customer's perspective, which is what I always talk about on our SEO Basics webinar, is that you've got to think like the person searching that does not know you exist. Yes, they know that they want to build a house or have a renovation or find this type of product, but they don't know you yet. So what are they searching? What are they asking? You can look at things like seasonal events, industry news, how-to or explainer topics are all good. So, what seasons are coming up? Is that important for your industry? For instance, I did a website on four-wheel drive adventures, and we could write a blog around adventuring during winter months, what to pack, or those sorts of things. So, think about your industry or business or what you're working on, and do the seasons impact that? Would people be searching and questioning things? And remember, they don't have to be looking for your product or service at that point. But by finding you in this way, that could turn into that lead, or at least they've now found you and know you, and then they can like discover further from there. Check search trends or social media comments. So I've actually heard this lately from a couple of talks that I've been to around people joining different Facebook groups or different community groups and monitoring and looking through those posts and kind of going and finding some really rich information. Like, I had no idea this was the type of questions people were asking of this industry or my service, and then knowing that you can take action with that. So it's always fine to be able to see a thread of comments saying, oh, it's really interesting, like the price of wood's going up, and you might be sitting there as a builder thinking, well, actually, I don't think it really is. It's a bit of a misconception, but there's people asking about it. So let's write a blog around, the perception of the cost of wood, or, is the cost of timber increased in 2025, and does that affect your total house build? And all of a sudden, you might find that that's going to get traction. Obviously, use AI. I'm going to show you that in 2 seconds. It's a really great tool, and if you're not using it, I'd love actually a show of hands actually out of interest. So we've got a few people in here, but even if it's a reaction in the chat, if you're using AI regularly, either on a daily or every 2 days basis, I'd be really interested to know, and if that's interesting, or if you'd like more content on that. I'm sorry, I'm just reading a question here. This is my question. How obvious is AI generated blog? Yeah, we'll get to that. We're going to write some blogs with the Flint AI tool in Rocketspark to show you that, because obviously sitting here watching me write out a whole blog and my thought process would be really challenging to watch. It depends. I think that whenever you write an AI blog or use AI to write the blog, even through Flint within Rocketspark, you should be reviewing that and sort of making it your own. I do think it comes down to how well you've got your tone of voice set up, which we're going to touch on in a minute as well, so that it's writing more like you. I don't think we can avoid the fact that most stuff we're seeing now will be written by AI, or a lot of things, and we will find it harder and harder to differentiate between the two unless you're reading content on a very specific topic all the time, and then you'll see a pattern emerging most probably. But again, it depends on how well you're driving the machine, I think. So let me just check a couple more of these comments. Hopefully that answers that. Not using AI enough, daily basis, using Flint, love that. Pretty much every day for work and home, Copilot mainly. Yeah, these are great to hear, because there has been a bit of a pattern of people not, and so it's great to hear you are. So this will be sort of not surprising for you. So I'll jump into my screen and share that for you. Give me just one moment. All right, so hopefully you can see my screen now. If you can just flick me a reaction or something, that would be great, just to make sure that you can see it. So I'm just in ChatGPT here. Thank you for that. That's perfect. And I just wrote a comment, to come up with some blog ideas for my building company. I was specific in asking that the topics need to be great for SEO and AEO and help incorporate more long-tail SEO keywords, which is something we just talked about. Answer those questions people are asking in Google about builders and the services we provide. And I asked for a bunch of them. So this has given me some suggestion here. And I told it that we do new builds, renovation, and restorations. And so it's come up with a bunch of things. And as you can see, based on my prompting, it said, how much does it cost to build a new home in your region in 2025? Step-by-step guide to building your dream home. I think I liked this one, what to ask your builder before signing a contract. I think that people will be searching for something like that. And definitely like how long does it take, etc. So there's definitely a few options here. I also put some building reports and services. What does a builder's report include? How much does a builder's report cost? So these are all things that people will be searching for and can be a great way to start blogging. And if you can create, so my other comment was to have like an ideas bank, something that you can just keep going for your business and add in. And so yeah, use AI maybe to come up with some ideas, use those conversations, but actually have a key place that you're keeping these so that you can come back to them and continue to write blogs. So that's pretty straightforward. There is another one that I talk about with on the SEO basics, is that you can search in here as well. So you might say what to ask your builder, and then they'll come up with things that are commonly asked: what to know before meeting with the builder, what to ask a builder when building a house, questions to ask your builder. Maybe we just put building a new home, cost, process, loan, ideas. These are all things that Google is suggesting to us based on other people's searches. Checklist, template. So this can be a great way to get ideas that are actually people are actually searching for. All right, so that I think completes that section about coming up with ideas. If you've got any questions of that or have any concerns about coming up with ideas, please let me know. But I do think it's probably one of the easier things to do. But always keep in mind, think of the person that's searching that doesn't know you exist, but is trying to solve a problem. I think that's a great way to look at it. Cool. So writing blogs with confidence. So I just wanted a little piece on here to tell you that you are the expert in your field. And this may seem kind of crazy, or you might think, well, of course I am. But we see so many customers that will think, well, if I write a blog, am I or is somebody going to read it? Is it okay? I'm not a writer, etc. But actually, you are the expert in your field. People that come to you for your service or your product, they don't know better than you. And so you need to be confident with that. And once you start and you build that confidence and you see people reading it and you find people coming to you because of it, that's going to then build on confidence. So I feel like I'm constantly trying to tell people that, yes, do it. You are the best person at this. You know way more than I would know about any of this. And that's what your customers are thinking too. And also try and write, not conversational, but try and make it easy for people to read. It shouldn't be a textbook or something. It should be really simple. You'll see when Flint writes the blog that it's structured. There's a lot of headings and then paragraphs sort of laid out separately to make it easy for people to read. The only thing it doesn't do is add in imagery, which is definitely something I would suggest doing as well. So yeah, just to break it up, use those images and headings as well. So let's have a look at Flint. Hopefully you've all had a go. I definitely know that somebody in the chat is saying that they're using it. So the first thing I just want to touch on briefly is updating your Flint tone of voice. So when you're in the editor in the top right on the lightning bolt, you can see Flint, and then you can go to the cog, and then you'll see the edit your tone of voice. I will let you know that this is getting a revamp. So I'm not sure exactly when it will be coming out, but it's going to be more intuitive, and it's going to really look towards business goals and things as well to really help get this more nuanced to your business. The key thing though is in this edit your tone of voice, or refine your tone of voice. And I would really emphasize that this is around what it's like to do business with you, or what it's like to speak with you. It's, like I put here, emotionally connected. We don't just build structures, we build the backdrop for your life. I know that's probably getting really deep, but if we really want AI to write for us in the right way, we need to make sure it understands what it feels like to be in a conversation with you, or feels like to be one of your customers. And I definitely like coming up with analogies. I did one for Carlos's Cupcakes, and I wrote in there that when you arrive at our store, it's like arriving at your grandmother's house, and the cupcakes have just come out of the oven and you can smell them and can't wait to eat them. And that's a memory for you. And then all of a sudden the writing was just so connected to the experience and so on. So I really focus on that. You don't need to really focus on maybe the awards you've won necessarily, or the specifics of your business, because that would come in your prompting and what you're asking. This is really that tone. Just checking a question. Yeah, it's a good idea too. So what I would suggest with the tone of voice, so the question was, so we should update tone of voice even if we have it already. Yeah, potentially. So if you've come through and it's created content, or let's say we're going to write some content. So I'm just going to add some under here. I'm just going to auto this. So this, when I auto write, it's going to take context from where we are on the page and so on. So now it's written something. So if you read that and you're like, it feels a bit bland or it's a bit colloquial, whatever it might be, I would definitely suggest updating your tone of voice. What you want to do is work on that to a point where every time you're using the tool or you're auto writing, it's coming out right. It is important to remember, though, that we've layered over some of our own knowledge and expertise, and we've put a lot of prompting in the background to help it for your website. So the AI tool, when it's writing here, whether you auto write or you prompt down the bottom here, is doing things like updating for a certain reading age that's works really well for websites, because you don't want things to be too detailed or like they're speaking to a child either. So that's been updated, and then making sure that it works as well as it can for things like SEO. It also knows the industry that you work in and where you work and those sorts of things. So it is updating a little bit by itself. So you can't sort of break that or start trying to write a novel in here, because it's just not going to write a fiction novel because it's not tailored towards that. So I would definitely, if you're not getting the right responses, I would try updating it, adding to it, removing and adding, and then coming and trying again. There's a webinar that's been posted recently about using Flint within your website. And I showed an example of the standard tone of voice that was created and the content, and then I updated that tone of voice and redid the content just with the auto write, and it was really, really different, and it spoke much better to what I was trying to do. So yes, I would jump in there, make sure you're getting it right. I'll be like a broken record here, but get it thinking about that. Even if you can come up with, I think I might have written in this one something around, it's like the Home Improvement TV show with Wilson over the fence, that conversation was always, like having a confidant and a friend and so on, but they weren't living in your property or there. And it kind of picked up on some of that type of relationship you would have with a builder, where you're working with them for a long time, but you get them and you're friendly with them, and that's a great relationship, but it's also not like they're going to move in when the house is finished. Let me just double check my notes here. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. So let's jump into the blog section. So you can access that through the 2 dashes or the dashboard button, and then go to blog, and we're going to go to our blog. So I've got a few things already here, but what we're going to do is we're going to go to the auto write section, and we're going to go back to our blog ideas, and let's use what to ask your builder before signing a contract, maybe. So what we can do in here is you can prompt this however you want, but this knows this is different to the writing on the website. This is going to write with in context that it's a blog. So we've done all of that prompting in the background. So in here, you could say write a blog, but it does already know that. But sometimes I'll write this and say, write a blog that answers the question, what to ask a builder before signing a contract. So you literally can just write that. There's more learning about blog descriptions here, which you can go and look at as well. But you can write as much or as little as you want here. So this is not going to create a huge blog, I don't think, but let's see what it creates anyway and get that started, because it will take maybe 15, 20 seconds. So what I love about using AI or Flint, depending how you prefer, is that if you can create a blog and this quickly, and it gets it most of the way there, you can definitely review it. So to that question earlier on about how obvious is AI generated blog, it really comes down to how well you've done your tone of voice, the type of prompting that you're giving it, but then also how you go through it and make it your own. What are the things that only you know? What's your IP that AI hasn't picked up on yet or isn't using, that you can add in here to add it. But if you go and try and write all this from scratch and you're maybe not a confident writer at all, it's going to be very hard. So we can see that this has created a bunch. Sorry about my font sizes, because this is a test site. I'm just going to read this question. Yeah, nice. There was a comment here just before we go through this blog around that Flint is kind of hung up on using the city name and everything, which might limit, the product as well as worldwide. And that does potentially matter. What I would say there is that if you service a wider area, that's going to be solved with the update to that Flint tone of voice survey piece. And it's actually going to have another part which says, yes, you're based, say, in Cambridge, but it'll say, do you service only Cambridge, your region, which would be the Waikato, your country, or worldwide. And so that's going to really help with some of that. But there is an element potentially where you still want some of the place that you're based in, or the city or town that you're based in, but then you need to make sure that Google and AI knows that you also service more. And so when it comes to that, I tend to focus on, so for instance, Park Street Construction might be based in Cambridge, but I would look at having landing pages that specifically talk to that different regions or areas you service. So they're location-based landing pages. So it could be Te Awamutu construction or Morrinsville construction, and you'd have a page for that, which would then be tailored towards using the word Morrinsville instead of Cambridge. But you can definitely change it as well. So if we quickly just jump back to here. So in the town or city, we've got Hamilton here. And even though it says town/city, you could change this. So we could say Waikato, and that would then adjust some of that through. But you also need to look in here in your tone of voice, because we've also got Hamilton listed here. So that's where it's important that if you don't just want to be in that area, that you do update these to be broader than that. And you can do it even though it says town or city. Yeah, it was nice that you guys are chatting there as well. The location definitely is either relevant or not. So I would even change this to be nationwide, and make sure that in here you're talking about that you service nationwide, so that you can make sure that it's writing in that way for you. Because otherwise, you're right, it's definitely going to start saying the physical location a lot, because that's what we're telling it to do. So let's have a look at that blog that we created. So that's even titled it different to what I've said: Essential Questions to Ask Your Builder Before Signing, which I think is actually a slightly nicer title. So now what we've got is a title or an H1 heading, which Google and AI will like. And now it's going to explain that. So we won't read this in full, but deciding to build a home is a monumental step. It's more than bricks and mortar. It's about setting the stage for life's memories. If you think back to the little bit I read of my tone of voice, this is really tuned into that. And what it's doing is it's saying, well, we still want to recommend Park Street, so we're going to still put that in here. Born in the heart of Hamilton back in 2010. We might want to say here, but we might want to change this and say, born in the heart of Hamilton in 2010, servicing the wider Waikato region, or something like that. So you will want to update this and review it and check it. But as we can see, understanding the project timeline, and so it's got these questions and it's bolded those. So where it's applicable, Flint will do this right. What milestones should you anticipate? Are there potential delays you should prepare for? Diving into inclusions and exclusions. Will the flooring and fixtures be part of the initial quote? Are there allowances for inevitable extras? And then being able to take your IP and add in a bullet point or two, or replacing a bullet point, but you've got the structure now and you've got it in a way that's going to work, and you haven't had to spend hours doing it. Importance of communication and support, etc., etc. So we can go through this as many times as we want. And what we might say is, actually, I'm going to get Flint to write all of these ideas that I've got from ChatGPT or from my ideas book. And what you can do, if you're on one of our pro plans or e-commerce grow or pro plan, is that you can make the post live at a later date. And this can be really great because Google does love fresh content coming out that it can index and update and work on. And so being able to say, well, actually, I'm going to have a schedule where I release a blog in the first week of every month, and I'm also going to share that on social media and put it in our newsletter. But I can create all of this now and get this going. Otherwise, you can just set it on live now if you're on one of our website builder plans, or you don't want to set it live later. So that's pretty straightforward and I think pretty easy. It's come up with our meta title and description as well. So this is, if you haven't watched the SEO basics or you're not sure, it'll be explained in there. But when you hover over this tile at the top, hopefully you can see in the top left, it's got our title tag for this page, which is matching the title tag there. And then if this was to come up in Google, this would be the description that shows on that Google search. So really important that we're just checking those, but it is doing that for us. So it's doing all the right SEO things in that space. As I said, we've got to make sure we're reading this and editing it. We even have this at the top here, edit your post before for better SEO. A few tweaks can help it better perform online. And we're just talking about making sure that you get it right for your business, that you are putting in those keywords if they've been missed, if there's something really important that you want to make sure is in there, just make sure you're doing it. And also make sure it's real. Like the last thing you want is to be putting things in here you don't agree with because AI's come up with them. For instance, will flooring and fixtures be part of the initial quote? You're like, well, that's just common sense. I don't really want that in there. I'm going to change that for something else. Yeah, I think I've already said this, but my other note was that it's really about a speed benefit here. I know that most of our customers tend to not have a lot of time to be creating pages or blogs. And so being able to do this and create these quickly, but know that it's for good, that it's going to help is important. So what I'm going to do so that we can finish on time or even slightly before, and then I can go into more if there's more questions, is I'm just going to see if I can show you, and I had to add one of another site that we have that is live and going. I'm just going to go to our dashboard. Obviously, you can use Google Analytics, and you can then connect that with your Rocketspark dashboard. If you are on the website builder, you will need to look at this in Google Analytics for the full detail. But if you've connected it and you're on one of the pro plans or e-commerce grow or pro, you'll be able to do this in here. And what I'm just going to do is I'm going to show you that you can set this for any sort of period, but you can also go to the pages here. And this is a little odd because I don't actually have a URL for this page, so it's saying unknown, but you can actually scroll down and find your blogs, and you can click on a blog to see how it's tracking or how successful it might be and how many views it's getting. And this is a great way to validate what you're doing. Which blogs are working better than other blogs. And, if I promoted it or put it out on a social post or in a newsletter, did I get that sort of click through? Am I seeing people visit it? And if that's working, let's do more like this post. These questions are obviously the right line of questioning, so let's do some more. So having a quick sort of check or review on that is really important. Yeah, I've explained what my other notes were. So doubling down on topics that are working really well. And this is no different from doing this for your other pages too. So when I talk about SEO sort of basic stuff, I talk about creating those landing pages. So they could be location-based pages, services-based pages, product or brand-based pages. But checking in here to see which ones work, it is really important so that you can then say, well, if I know that these pages are getting me hundreds of views every month or week or whatever it might be, then why would we not try and do more of that? Sharing the blog on socials, I would suggest that you're just sharing the link. I know that sometimes linking can be tricky on socials and you might have to put it in your first comment and so on. But, even if you've got an image on the blog, so if we, I didn't do any images here, but if we came in here, we could actually use the plus to add a picture. And I would generally put the picture right at the top because you've got the title and then you'd have the picture. And then that means that it will show on the blog page. But you might use that same picture and the same heading to say, check out our newest blog live now, essential questions to ask your builder before sign-in, has a picture of a person working with the builder maybe, so it makes it human, and then you would use the link of the blog. So to get that link, you would need to go to your live site so that you can see the true URL. It is quite common that people will use this URL. Hopefully you can see that. But this is the Rocketspark URL, and this is not indexed by Google. So these pages with the rocketspark.co.nz or whatever server you're on, don't get indexed by Google. You need to have your website page. It'll have the same ending, so this part at the end, but the beginning will be your domain. So hopefully that kind of answers that, but it should be as simple as sharing the link, but I would try and make it engaging by adding the topic or the question, and even an image to inspire people to read it, and even why you've written it and why it might be important. It's really tricky because I know that a lot of people won't have a huge budget for their websites and funding, but every time we've seen somebody go down a digital marketing route with a good digital marketer, and unfortunately there are some that maybe aren't as good as others, but if they get your business and what you're trying to do, and they can show you true results and that's what they're working towards, then it's kind of a no-brainer if you can say, well, I can invest $1,000 in a month, but that it shows me a direct increase in traffic and a direct increase in inquiries or sales, then it's probably the easiest way that you can increase sales, and it's what most companies do. I was at a talk yesterday with a founder of a business who over the course of like a year or two went from nothing to $80 million, which is crazy, but they just talked about getting the marketing right, and how important that was. Obviously, there's some businesses where face-to-face is super important as well, but you've got to be found and get more people finding you if you're trying to scale and grow. Depends on what enough business looks like for you, I think, as well. So that I kind of actually got through that a little bit quicker. I probably could do a couple more examples now. So I might do a couple more examples of blogs, but let me just read this next question. And also I'll wait for more questions to come through as well. I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that in the question around title case. Are we talking about like our heading structure? Sorry, I hate to ask sort of back, but yes and no. Yeah, I get what you're saying now. So yes, how this is all in capitals. It depends. So we've got multiple AI generative tools working in the background of Flint, so that we can take the best of both worlds. We find that title capitalization in the form of a website and even with blogs is important. It does help a little bit, but obviously looks really odd to say like a copywriter in general, because that's not always best practice. So I think what we've probably done with ours is err on the side of let's capitalize to make sure that it's understood that it's a heading, and we're also obviously tagging that like this is an H1 heading, and I think this is an H2 heading, which it is. But also it's important because we need to make sure that it's capturing capitalization of like business names or places, which AI sometimes can struggle with. So I think we've gone a little bit stronger in that as well to make sure that you're not finding issues with that as well. But yes, I don't think there's anything wrong with it in these contexts, or in the context maybe of, if we go back, let's see what it's done with the title. So it hasn't capitalized all of that, but definitely in a blog, I think that's okay. But a good question, something that I'll definitely be researching a little bit more. But also one of those things that I think once you've started to get enough blogs and you've got all your landing pages and you've done everything for SEO, that those are the 1%ers and the little things on top of that you can start sort of focusing on. I find that sometimes we just need to get those basics right. And blogging is a really important part, but also, like, for instance, I'd be starting to make sure that first of all, your landing pages are right. If somebody comes to your site because of a blog and finding a blog through Google, but then they end up on your services page and it's, missing things, or it's not accurate, or it's disengaging in some way, or doesn't represent you properly, then it's kind of for no use. So I would definitely be starting to make sure that my core pages are right, that they're optimized for SEO so people can find it, but also that they're going to make people do what you want them to do. So, like here we've got the contact us, we've got the sticky header with get in touch, we've got the call to action, which is we want people to get engaged with us. So let's make sure that's all there. Otherwise we could just be missing the opportunity. Any benefit in including external links in blogs? I prefer to see more internal links. I think it's really beneficial to make sure that we're linking through to pages that work. So let's see if there's an example in that blog. Understand the project timeline, driving and inclusions. Conclusion, building with confidence. So it could be somewhere here where you're linking to a contact us page, or somewhere in the blog it might talk about like different services that builders provide. And I would then be linking through to the pages within your site. When you start getting into like backlinks and things where you're linking off to another site, that can be important, but just remember you are taking somebody away from your site to do that. So if it's about content that somebody has, maybe create the content yourself. Maybe you add another blog or another page on your site that you can link to instead of going somewhere else. If it's a supplier of yours, then add a supplier page to your site. That way you're also going to get some goodness for people searching for that supplier that might end up with you and go, oh, I was looking at Hardy weatherboards, but I see you use Hardy weatherboards in your construction company, and that's what I'm wanting to do is renovate my house. So, hey, can you help me? One-stop shop. Can you show us how to link? Oh, okay, yeah, absolutely. So we'll do it maybe here. So we could do something like, sorry, we'll do it in this text block. So we can update this text and we might just say, get in touch now. And then we'll highlight that and click on the link. And then we'll say, oops, sorry, page. And let's go to, maybe about us. It should be a contact us page or something like that. And we can save that and then we can do it. We can see that sort of gray, which is probably not the best for a link. So I'm just going to change our site-wide heading and paragraph settings. So this is something more bold, probably not part of my brand, but let's do that just so you can see it changing. And now we've got to get in touch now. I was just trying to see, you could add a picture here, which links off to a page as well. So I'll just see if I can add something that, what have I got? Oh, actually, I'll just add like the Rocketspark logo. I know that it's not quite, sorry, I'm going to find where I'm going. This right? Oh, yeah. So this is just one of our logos, for instance. So I might say I just want, this could be anything. But now over the side here, we can link that through. So we can choose the destination and say we want it to go to About Us page and save. So this could potentially be how you do it as well. I'm not 100% sure the question. So, but your blogs don't need to be visible on the website. So you definitely would want them. So for instance, let's make this post live and we're going to say now. So there's a couple of things. So that's kind of like what we say landing pages, but this blog is now live. And so if I actually, am I going to be able to do this? Otherwise I will. Okay, so this is live now. It's not a true domain, but if I go to this is the actual website. Oh, no, it's not. I'll log out. So this is the actual website and it's live now. It's using the Rocketspark domain, but you kind of get what I'm doing. So the blog is live, but it's not, we can't navigate from these pages at the moment. So there's definitely suggestions where you might be like under your services and under new builds, you might say, I'm going to put a link in here to the blog, because you might say, have a frequently asked questions section, which is great for AEO or AI, by the way. That might say, how much time does it take to build a house? And you might say, building a house can take anywhere from 6 to 9 months, depending on the size of the build. Check out the blog here, and then you might link to the blog. Some people will choose to have the blog in their menu because it's an important piece and they might be really keen on sharing information. But you don't have to. So if it's not you can't navigate to it, then it's still going to be indexed by Google and it can still be presented to people to become a place that they land on in your site as the first place. So instead of coming to your homepage via Google and going through the pathway to get there, people might actually land on the blog directly. And therefore, you don't necessarily need it to be linked, but linking within your site is really important. So I would definitely lean into that so that you can maximize it. And the way I put it is, let's say your homepage is going really well. It's been live for a long time. It's got good SEO. If you link from this good page to another page, that other page gets some of the goodness from the previous page. And so all of that really helps Google to understand your site and also to see your site as a really, truly good search result to recommend to people. Because remember, Google is working for the searcher, not for you. And so they want to provide the best possible search results for that person, that with the best possible and quality content, so that they come back and use Google. So if they can't do that within the first couple of search results, then they're kind of failing. And so if you're not delivering on that, they're not going to recommend you. Can you name the blog FAQ? Yeah, so let's log back in if I can. All right, so we might say, if we go to manage pages, we might say we want FAQs as a page title, and then we can choose for this to go to the blog, and we can go add. And so then what we'll see, we can then drag this up above the menu line and turn it online now. And so when we go here, we'll now see that we've got FAQs. And when you click on that, it takes us to our blog page. I haven't set those blogs live, so that's what I did. No, it's because my blog's off. So FAQs, and it's still off. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong site. My apologies there. So let's just add this in again. Add page, FAQs, goes to blog, add. Cool. So we can click on that, then it will take us to our blog homepage. You might, I'm just going to change this to grid. So you might do it this way. So yeah, you can create that page any way you want. You might even do something along the lines of, it's a bit tricky, but you might say, well, I'm going to put the FAQs at the top, or you might say, I'm going to have FAQs and then I'm going to have specific ones. So you can have this in your menu and say, questions to ask your builder. This is probably not the best example, but we could take that to a URL and we could put in the /blog / and then the name of the blog. And then that way we could then say, have that in our header menu as well, or we could actually have like FAQs, create a drop-down menu, and then add that page to the drop-down menu and make the FAQs part non-clickable. Sorry, I know that's a bit to deal with, but now all of a sudden the FAQs bit's not clickable, but when I hover down, I could have a list of FAQs right there. So if it's like vitally important, you think that's the most important thing for people to navigate to on your site, then you could do it in that way. You could also take people, like if you click on FAQs, you could actually take them to a page which has like your latest blogs using the blog slider or something like that, which updates to your blogs. Based on the tags you put in them and the newest ones that are posted. So there's lots of different ways you can do that. But ultimately, by having the blog in the first place, Google will potentially recommend that to people that are asking those questions. And that's the first step. And then how you incorporate that into your website journey is also important. Always thinking about what's the call to action, what's the step you want people to take. If it's to fill out a form or get in touch with you, then at each stage, no matter where you are, you want to make sure that's really clear to them. And that's why things like the sticky header with the button in the menu can be really powerful for that. But even with that, having options as you go through, there's not enough on this site, but there should be buttons throughout here that are telling people to take that next step. So just keep that in mind as well. So we've just kind of gone over a couple of minutes, but that's okay from my side. Hopefully, what we've kind of gone through has been helpful. And sometimes it's stuff you probably kind of already think or know or have a bit of an insight, but taking the time out to stop and think about it, and then now taking action is important. So what I would leave you with is, if you can go from here and create a list of blogs that you need to write, or create a task that's reoccurring once a month even, to write a new blog and set it live, then you've got an actionable outcome and that you can then monitor and do. And it's that continual building on your site and on your content and adjusting for what's right now, that's going to help. So I challenge you to do that. I challenge you to help your website be more successful. And if you're working for other people or on other people's website, is to also, be doing that for them. Even if you can imagine building a site and having a couple of blogs right out the gate that they can choose to publish or edit or not, really powerful stuff. And it's going to give your site or your customer's site a sort of a step up or a leg up right from the day dot. So hopefully that's something that you can incorporate into your busy lives. Thanks again for joining. I'll stay on for a couple of minutes while people are jumping off, just in case there's any other questions that come through. As always, please come through to support@rocketspark.com, speak to our team, check out the customer webinars page for anything that's new, and keep looking at those newsletters for our next educational webinars. Have a great day, everyone. It's great to have you here. Cheers.